Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. Thank you for joining our session today on Ashoka's holistic undergraduate admissions, specifically the process, admission form, essays, and assessments. My name is Rinda Tandon, and I work with the Office of Outreach. Joining me today is Mercia Prince, Director, Office of Admissions at Ashoka University. Together, we will be addressing some of your queries about the Ashoka undergraduate admissions process. A very warm welcome to you, Marcia. Before we begin, I would like to inform the audiences that this is the final round for the UG admissions for the year 2025. The deadline for the final round is 25th of April 2025 to apply soon. So without further ado, let's get started. Feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We will take them up at the end of the session. Over to you, Masha.
Thank you, Rinda. Good evening to everybody who's on the same time zone as us. So if you're attending this session, we're guessing that you're very interested in Ashoka and you're interested in applying to us and you're interested in the upcoming round, which is the final round. So thankfully, you still have a few more days. So what I intend to do today, and I'll share my screen with you, is let me do this first. Yeah. All right, I think that should work. Yeah, so you may have heard a lot of things about Ashoka. You may be you may know people, students studying there, or people connected to Ashoka. But what I do want to do is give you a little bit of a broad overview. So to start with, today in particular, we'll talk about the undergraduate programs, the admissions process, application and admissions process. And as you know, Ashoka is a liberal education university, which means that we're focusing on the natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities in a very diverse and multicultural residential space. So it is a fully residential program, and it allows for a lot of diversity in terms of people, in terms of what you're studying. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But before I start, I just want to mention that, a lot of us have understood education in a certain manner. We've understood it where we decide what we want to study, we apply for that, and then we pursue that. The Ashoka model is very different. The liberal education model itself is very different. It goes back to ancient learning, whether it's Eurocentric or whether it's ancient Indian learning. You'll see that it was very diverse. So if you are somebody who is very clear about what you want to study, right, I'd say come with a little bit of an open mind, right? If you're somebody who is completely confused and has no clue what you want to study, I'd say that this would be a great place for you to find yourself and find what you want to study and or pursue, your learning. And if you're somewhere in the middle where you kind of know, you kind of not sure, that's okay as well. The education model, and I'll talk about that just now, will really allow you to discover yourself primarily, and then discover what you want to study, and then, of course, discover eventually what you want to do. So broadly, this is what we're offering. So as I move forward, I'll cover these four aspects. I'll spend more time on some, on a couple, and then maybe lesser time on the others. But I'll talk about Ashoka's, or in general, a holistic liberal education process, what that means for any university that offers liberal arts and science. And of course, in particular to Ashoka, I'll talk about the undergraduate academic programs, what we offer. You may know this already, so I'll run through that. I'll talk in detail about the application and admissions processes. You may have started the process already. You may have started your application form, but hopefully the session will give you some guidance on how to, fill certain aspects, understand why we're asking you all these things primarily. And then I'll touch a little bit about on need-based scholarships. You will have another session that's upcoming on financial aid and need-based scholarships. So I'll just touch that briefly. Okay, so let me begin. And I just want to apologize. My throat is not very good. So I hope you'll bear with me. As I begin, we are a 4-year program. We're a 4-year BA BSc honors program. There's an option of doing research in the 4th year. And they are in various fields of inquiry, right? Various disciplines. The focus of the program, of a liberal education program, is intellectual development through multi, as in many, or inter, as in intertwined, and disciplinary learning, right? So you have multiple disciplines that you learn separately, and then you also learn how these disciplines interact with each other, how they talk to each other. You get the opportunity to design your own journey at Ashoka. So while some courses, of course, are mandatory and some toward your major or otherwise, but there will be a lot that you can actually do differently as well, just based on what your interests are and what you want to learn. So there is going to be a lot of onus on the student, right? No one's going to tell you at the beginning that this is exactly what you're going to do. Here's the syllabus. These are what your exam dates are, and this is how you're going to go through the next 4 years. It's not as straightforward as that. So it's a journey. It's a journey where you really can give yourself the time to learn and to discover, like I said, yourself, and discover and experience your journey, right? And of course, it's a fully residential program. And how do we do this? And what are the primary focus areas of this learning environment would be, as you know, like I said, intellectual development. So critical thinking is a big part of Ashoka's education. You will do a lot of academic reading, you will do research, you will do academic writing, and you'll do these from day one, from your first semester onward. So you will be taught how to ask questions, you'll be taught how to think, not what to think, but how to think. You'll be taught how to look at what other people have said, what other people have said about the things that you're asking about. So it's going to be very rigorous. It's going to be very engaging. It's going to be fun, because learning anything is fun, right? So that's the academic part of it. And you won't do that in isolation, right? So you will do that collaboratively. There will be teamwork, projects. You will be working together. You will do some things on your own. You write some papers on your own, but it will be a very sort of mixed methods in that sense of learning. And one of the things that we really value is peer learning. So peer learning is very important at Ashoka, because you spend a lot more time with your peers than you spend with your professors, right? Or in the classroom. And so you're also learning from each other. You're learning from friends. You're learning from your roommate. You're learning from your seniors, right? Your juniors. So peer learning is a big part of the learning environment. And, you learn how to analyze, how to do problem solving, how to innovate, and how to think about social impact, right? So that you can add meaning to your own education and see what it is that you really want to accomplish and do. Maybe some of it you'll do it during your education at the university. Maybe most of it is what you'll do later. And in whatever field you go in, like, the focus is that as a good citizen of any country, to be able to really problem solve and innovate, and to be able to have some sort of social impact. So these are some of the things that the education will sort of gear you toward and allow your own voice to be heard. And of course, you will build your skills. You'll learn how to navigate the world, right? How to step out into the workforce at the end of your academic journey. You'll have the space, because it's a residential program, so you'll have the space to develop your interests, to participate in community life, because you'll be living on campus. And so there are various things that can be accomplished through this liberal education. But I must say that a lot of this is possible only if you really give yourself to it. If learning is what you're really interested in, and you allow yourself to make the most of the Ashoka journey. So if this is of interest to you, if learning is of interest to you, if being able to explore a range of disciplines, to be able to get into depth of some disciplines, to to read and write and to focus on developing yourself, right? To think critically, to think about your country, your community, your world, then I would say that a liberal education would be the right fit for you. Um, so, with this as the base, what I want to quickly run uh, through is the undergraduate academic program. And you may have seen this. Like I said, it's a 4-year program. There's an option to do the 4th year without research, or you could do a research with the professor in the 4th year. So and we have BA and BSc, and I'll show you the list of courses that are there as well. But for any student who comes in, regardless of what they want to major in, you will have mandatory foundation courses. So every student has to do 9 foundation courses, which includes an introduction to critical thinking course and a range of other courses. I'll just show them to you. You'll have to do all the courses toward the major that you choose. So you only have to declare your major at the end of the 3rd semester, right? So you've got 8 semesters in 4 years. And so at the end of the 3rd semester, you declare your major. So you've got sufficient time prior to that to really explore, get as much breadth as possible and then decide. So whatever you put in your application form as the major that you want to do is not set in stone. So you do have the opportunity to completely change your mind if you wish to, or you can continue to do what you have put on your form. Then there are co-curricular courses and an internship, which are also mandatory with the national education policy that has come out. So the internship has now become a mandatory component. It's actually gets you credits and it goes on your transcript. And then you have things that you can do which are not mandatory, right? You can do a minor, you can do a concentration, and I'll talk a little bit about that. A minor is 6 courses in any discipline. Concentration is 4 courses. Electives are just independent courses. Or you can do an independent study module. Maybe a professor is offering a course that you can do with them, just you and the professor, and that's possible as well. And then, of course, there's a research component, which is also optional. So broadly, this is what 4 years is going to look like. It sounds like a lot, and it's quite rigorous, and it's quite intense. But I think Ashoka students also have a very rich and fulfilling campus life. So, and somehow you kind of learn how to balance both. But the education is going to be rigorous, but is going to be focused on learning, right? So here's just a quick look, and I'll give you like half a minute to look at these. These are the 9 foundation courses that you have to mandatorily do. You'll start with semester 1 with 4 courses, and then the remaining 5, you can do some in your 2nd semester, some in your 3rd. But essentially, in order to graduate, you need to do all 9. So if you're somebody who hasn't studied mathematics in, classes 11 and 12, you'll still have to do a course on quantitative reasoning and mathematical thinking. Or maybe you're someone who doesn't like to read as much. If you get into Ashoka, you'll have to do a course in literature and the world or grade books, right? Or maybe you're not a science student and you're like, science really wasn't my thing. Well, you'll still have to do a principles of science course. I mean, it could be all of these. I mean, you have to do all of these, right? So it doesn't matter. But these would be the 9 that every student who comes to Ashoka does. And here is the list of the pure and interdisciplinary majors. You can look at them. I'm not going to go into them. Maybe just to mention that we added international relations last year as a pure major, and then we added economics and public policy as an interdisciplinary major. But as you can see, pure majors are single departments. They're all majors from one department. Interdisciplinary majors are majors that combine different disciplines. So like you've got history and international relations, or you've got mathematics and computer science. So, they're bringing different disciplines and they're already pre-designed and set in such a way that these disciplines sort of interact with each other, speak to each other. And then so you can major in any of these that you want to. There's some mathematics requirements for some majors, but we can, there's everything's on the website. You can look at that. What are the requirements for mathematics? If you don't have mathematics and you want to do a major that requires mathematics, There is a way to address that as well. But again, these are things that you have to clear, right? So I'll let you look at that. It's on the website. But these are about the majors. And then very quickly, here are the minors and co-curriculars. So you can do a minor in any of these that I mentioned here. There's some really interesting ones, as you can see. So whatever major you pick, maybe you pick a physics major, but you want to do Sanskrit studies as a minor, or you want to do entrepreneurship as a minor. So you will do those 6 courses as a minor. You could also do something completely different. You could maybe do physics as a major, like I said, but you say you want to do philosophy as a minor, which is also a pure major. That's also possible. So all pure majors can be a minor as well. So minor is 6 courses. Major concentration is 4 courses, right? And electives are single course offerings. And then there's the aspect of co-curriculars. You have to do 2 co-curriculars. They are courses that seem non-academic, but they're taught in an academic manner, and their credits go into the program. So you could learn some interesting language, or you could do something in performing arts or in film. And so various co-curriculars are offered under some of these umbrella programs. And so you can decide, but you'll have to do 2 mandatorily for them to go on your transcript. Okay. So in light of all of this, I want to quickly walk you through the admissions process. So we've got a holistic liberal education, and we've got a holistic admissions process. So the admissions process is designed based on the program, based on what happens on campus, based on the classes, based on the education that is being imparted to students, right? So we've designed the admissions process to ensure that we find the best students who will succeed in that program. So, okay. So just a quick overview. So we have 1 admission cycle. We have 3 rounds. We're finished with round 1 and round 2, and we are currently now waiting for applications for round 3. This is our final round. So I'll show you the calendar as well. It's our final round. The process is repetitive across rounds. So stage 1, you submit an application form. It's online. Everything is online. You'll have access to the application form. You can only submit 1 application form in a year, and then you have to take mandatory assessments. I'll talk a little bit about each of these. Once you've done that, you've submitted the application form, you've taken the mandatory assessments, then your assessments and your application form are evaluated. After its evaluation, if you get shortlisted for the interview round, then you move to having a mandatory interview with the panel. It's also online, but some of you will not get shortlisted. And if that doesn't happen, then that's where the journey sort of ends. For those who get shortlisted, you go to the interview round. Once the interview is done, the committee does a holistic evaluation of the candidate. And once that's done, you get your decisions. So stage 3 is decisions and scholarships. So if you do get an offer of admission, then you can apply for need-based scholarship. So the form is available. And then you're given time to, you get your decision on your scholarships. You get time to talk to people from the admissions team, talk to students, talk to, people who can answer questions for you that you in leadership, who you may have specific questions and concerns, and then you can make an informed decision of whether you want to join Ashoka or not. So broadly, this is the overview of the process. I'll take a little bit of time and I'll deep dive into this, because I believe some of you or many of you will be now filling your application form, and there will be aspects of it which hopefully this will help. If there are other questions, of course, please put it in the question and answer box, and then we will take them after this. So the admissions calendar, as you can see, round 1, round 2, and round 3. So we're done with decision notification on April 9th for round 2. Round 1 is complete. Round 2 is decisions have gone out. So now we're waiting for the offer confirmation deadline. And then, but for you, what's important now is round 3, which is April 25th. That's when you have to submit your application form. And then the assessments date is May 4th. And by June 25th, you should get a decision. That means all interviews will be conducted within this time period, and then you'll get a decision on June 25th. Okay, so let me move forward. Just some general application guidelines, right? I'll just highlight the ones that you can read these yourself, but I'll just highlight some key ones. You can only submit one application form, like I said. So duplicate or plagiarized application forms will not be eligible. Please use a personal email address, particularly now that most of you will be leaving school, and you may not, you may be using a school email ID. So use something that you'll have for the next few years. So use a personal email ID. Please take time to fill the application form by yourself. It's important that you fill the application form by yourself, because there are aspects of the form that are going to, have you think, have you contemplate a little bit. And so there are a lot of opportunities and avenues for you to put in a lot of information in the application form. There are small boxes. There are help boxes. If you don't understand, you can just click on it, hover over it, and then it'll show you what it means, what you can put in there. I would say give yourself time. So you do have around 20 days or a little less to fill your application form, which is a good amount of time. Don't wait till the last 2 days or the last week to fill your application form, because then you'll do a sort of shabby job and you won't fill all the details. So one of the things that I would say, and I tell students all the time, is that don't just fill what's mandatory, because mandatory is always the basics, right? It's stuff that we really need to know. But there's so many other spaces and boxes and things that you can actually use to tell us more about yourself. So the non-mandatory boxes are also equally important. So, so look at the application as, think about this. There are a bunch of people that you may or may not ever meet who are going through your application form, and the only window they have to you as a person, who you are, is through your application form, right? If you get shortlisted for the interview based on this application form and the assessments, then maybe you have another opportunity to talk about yourself. Otherwise, this is your only shot. And this is very, very important for the team to decide whether you're going to move forward or not. So take your time, go through all aspects, fill information correctly, right? Attach valid documents. So be detailed. I think to be detailed, to be thorough are very important. And then, of course, check and review your application. If you need help from someone you trust, because there are essays and stuff, show it to somebody you trust. And then, of course, submit your application form, and then take the mandatory Ashoka assessments for your form to be evaluated. Okay, so what does the application form contain? If you haven't looked at the form yet, then these are the aspects. There are personal and family details. There's a section on that. There's a section on school academics. There's a section on standardized tests, if any, right? There's a section on non-academic engagements. Then there's a section where we want to know about your reading interests. Then there are personal essays. There are 2 of them. Then there's a recommendation space where earlier we used to ask for a recommendation letter, but we know that it's a big hassle for many students who don't have counselors in school. So what we're doing now is we're asking you to submit the details of your recommender. So talk to somebody who's willing to be a recommender. And I'll talk a little bit about what kind of recommendation. And so put down the details, and we'll contact them if we need to. And then, of course, we have some survey questions and your course preference related question, and then a very important section on your support requirements. So broadly, this is what the application form is, right? I'll walk you through each of these sections briefly to tell you what we're looking for and why, just so that you understand. And if you understand the why, I hope then you will do your best, because then hopefully it will really make sense as to why we're asking you these, right? So for us, and imagine us, people like us, who are on the other side, an entire team of people who are reading your application form, personal and family information gives, deep insights into your life, right? We get to know you, we get to know about your background, we want to understand your context. It's very important for us. So tell us as much as you can about yourself, right? Academic scores from school, right? So we ask you from classes 9 to 12. So 9, 10, sorry, not 9, 10, 11, 12. We used to ask 9 before, but 10, 11, 12. And 12, you may not have your final scores. So you will be submitting predicted scores. But the reason we ask you about your school scores is because we'd like to evaluate your consistency as a applicant, right? As a student, how have you been faring in school over time? What sort of rigor have you put in? How disciplined have you been? And we understand you'll have a bad year, maybe, or a bad semester, but it just gives you sort of an idea of how you've been as a school student. There are some details, and I don't want to go into too many of the details, but very quickly, if you don't have your class 12 final scores, you are required to predict your own scores of closest to what you think you're going to get in subject wise in class, in your final board exams. And there's also an option for school to predict or give your school predicted scores. So if you have a counselor or you have teachers who are willing to provide that, you can get those and upload them. But if you're from an international board like IB Cambridge, then you need to put the details of your counselor and it goes directly to them and they submit your predicted scores. But all of you have an option to put your own predicted scores as well, and you must put it. So don't submit your application form without your class 12 predicted scores. They may not be accurate, so don't over predict, but don't under predict as well, right? Predict broadly as to how you think you're prepared and what you think you're going to get. We don't make firm offers based on predicted scores, but it gives us a good indication, right? And if you've got any SAT, ACT, or CUET scores, you can put them. We accept them, but they're not mandatory. So, and if you're a gap year student, please apply. We have a lot of gap year students applying to us, so please do apply. Okay, I think I need to speed up a little bit here. So let me go quickly. Another important aspect of us getting to know you is to understand you outside of school, outside of your studies. So what do you do? How do you use your time? How do you use your resources? How do you use your energy in what you do outside of academics, right? So we've given you the opportunity to put down 3. So please prioritize. Tell us what matters to you. Tell us your 3 key interests or activities. It really allows us to get a view into you as a person, and things that you do because you're really passionate about it, right? If you've got, there are a bunch of things you could include, and the list is not, comprehensive. There's a lot more things you could do: leadership positions, personal interests, hobbies, awards, internships, community service, etc. Like you could do, sports, dance, anything that you actually do. So don't just put things for the sake of putting it. Put things that you really are passionate about. Put things that you care about. Put things that you've done for a long time. So that'll be really helpful for you. If you've got certificates and collateral, please, pictures, awards, certificates, just attach them. There's a place for that. Please don't attach your resume, okay? And if you've done like 12 football games, for example, but you've got the top 3, put the top 3 in one PDF. Don't put all 12. So kind of prioritize. Just learn to prioritize while you're putting this down. It's very important. Again, like I said, reading is a big part of Ashoka. So we have a section on where we'd like to know the kinds of books that you read. Mandatorily, you have to put 3, but you have the option of adding 2 more. If you're a reader and you've got 5, please put 5. It just gives us a much wider range to work with. Okay? So this is a very crucial aspect. Very quickly, there are 2 essays. This is what's going to take time. So in your first prompt, in your first essay, there are going to be 2 prompts. So you get to pick one, and then you write one. And then, of course, there's a second essay. The first essay is 400 words, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The first essay really what we're looking for really is to see how you think as a student. So either of the prompts that you pick, you'll see that they are prompts that are focusing on your ability to think, your ability to reflect, how you think, how you reflect, how you engage, with the world around you, with maybe an issue, with yourself, whether the issue is a scientific issue or a mathematical concept, or it's an opinion or a belief, whatever it might be. It's something, what we're trying to look for is what is your thought process? How do you think, right? I know that ChatGPT is a great way to write essays. We're completely cognizant of that. But it's not really helpful for us because these are very personal. Like, these are really for us to know how you think. So don't worry too much about presentation. Your essay doesn't need to be flowery in speech. Your essay doesn't need to be, sounding like, with very high flown language, right? What we really want to know is the core and the crux of it. So these are very personal sort of questions. So read the question, address all parts of the prompt, right? The prompts are kind of long, so you've got to address all parts of it. You've got 400 words. Don't write 100 words or 200 words. If you've got 400 words, aim to write between 350 and 400 words, and write it yourself. Write a couple of drafts yourself. And when you're kind of happy and you feel like, okay, this sounds like what I want to say, maybe have someone look at it and give you some feedback. But pick a topic, one of the two, and then focus on that. The second essay really is mandatory. Both are mandatory, but in the first one, you have an option to pick one or the other. The second one is really for everybody, and it's something that we want to know more about you. It's that one space in the application form which allows you to share something significant with us, something that has shaped you significantly, right? Could be a conversation, it could be a perspective, it could be an event or happening in your life, whatever it is, but something that really kind of has defined you. It could be anything. It could be something that's extraordinarily, happy, celebratory, or something that's been a tough time in life. It doesn't matter what it is. But this just gives us a little bit more about you. So broadly, these are the essays. Write them yourself, write a few drafts, stick to the word limit. You can't go over the word limit, but don't go under the word limit too much. I think use that space to really tell us what's on your mind, tell us how you think, tell us what's going on, and this really helps us to get to know you. Okay, I'm going to run through these. Like I said, the letter of recommendation, it's no longer mandatory, highly recommended. All we need is a contact. We need contact details of somebody who will add value to your application. But please note that it has to be someone with whom you've interacted either professionally, like as an internship or something, or academically. So somebody who has taught you, or a tutor or a mentor, but someone who can add value to you, to your academics or your work. Talk about your personal characteristics, talk about your character, your background. Someone who's not just going to say what you've told us in the application form. They've got to be able to add value. But if we require a letter of recommendation, we will contact them. So you no longer have to chase them down and try to find them. Make sure that they write the letter of recommendation. That's our job. We'll do it. But you need to tell us whom we can contact. So ask them, talk to this person that you think, if they're willing, put down their details, and then we'll contact them if we need to. Then there's a section for survey. Ask you a lot of questions about, your past interactions with Ashoka, if any, and what your preferred major is. So we give you 3 options. You get to, pick the one that you think you really want to do at this stage. And then you have 2 more options. You can change your mind, but this is for us to sort of understand. And if you do get shortlisted for the interview, then you do get to have a conversation about what you have chosen, right? Okay. And just finally, a very important section in the application form. It's about the kind of support that you may need. So, we come from all different kinds of backgrounds, and people have diverse experiences, diverse learning challenges, diverse social challenges, whatever it might be, right? So we have an option for you to put in aspects of what you may be struggling with or where you may need support. So read this section carefully. If you need English language assistance, if there's a disability of any sort, whether it's visual or hearing, or a locomotor disability, or speech language, or maybe a cognitive or learning disability, like whether it's dyslexia or whether it's dysgraphia or dyscalculia, whatever it might be, right? Or whether it's a physical health condition or a mental health condition, anything that you think may require special attention, please put it down, and please put down what sort of support you need. So we have a section for that as well, which asks you what sort of support you may need. The committee evaluates it, and then we offer you support from the time of admissions, from the time of your assessments, your entire admissions process. And if you get into Ashoka and you come to Ashoka, then even on campus, we've got support centers to support you. So this is the support section is very important. We really believe in inclusion and diversity, and so we want to give you the opportunity to really tell us about yourself and what sort of support you may need. Yeah. So then, of course, there's a small space there for you to write about anything confidential, any sort of challenge you may have faced that has affected your learning over the last few years. So you can tell us, and we will ensure that we consider it as well in your application. Okay. Once you've submitted your application form, you need to take these mandatory assessments. It's on one day. I told you it's on May 4th for this round. So you submit your application form, and May 4th is the mandatory assessments. So you've got an on-the-spot essay. It's 30 minutes. You'll get 2 prompts. You pick one. It's all online. It's proctored online. So you'll be on video, and you'll have audio-video proctoring. 30 minutes, you get 2 prompts. You pick one. You decide the one you want to write on. And then in 30 minutes, you can write your essay. I think we take a minimum of around 250 words, so ensure that you are able to really, spend your time writing. So that's the on-the-spot essay. No preparation required. These are, you read the prompt, you'll understand it, and then you're able to think about it and write. So it's not something, if you want to look at, there are some samples on the website, so on the admissions page. So please look at it. The Ashoka Aptitude Assessment is 90 minutes. If some of you need extra time, then we do give you extra time. But this is broadly what it is in general. So there are 40 questions. It's 90 minutes, and they're multiple choice questions. So they evaluate, in fact, both the on-the-spot essay and the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment really evaluate your comprehension, engagement, your ability to think critically, your ability, and of course with the aptitude assessment, your ability to problem solve, because there are some numerical and spatial reasoning questions as well. So just to see if we're able to understand, think, and arrive at an answer, we will be using mathematical concepts studied till class 10. If you haven't studied math in classes 9 and 10, you can write to us. You will still be required to give the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment, but we'll be mindful of that. So total 120 minutes with a 5-minute break in between the two. And so, like I said, minimal preparation required. Yeah, so you can check the website for some sample questions and prompts. Okay, keep an eye on the clock here very quickly. After all of this is done, the committee looks at your application form, reads through it. I mean, they have looked at it, the forms have been evaluated, then they look at your assessments, they put those together, look at all of it, and then shortlist you for the interview to see, to get to know you and to give you an opportunity to really talk about yourself, right? So as you can see, it's an online interview, right? We send you a list of, if you're shortlisted, you'll be informed. You'll also be sent an opportunity to pick your own day and slot, give with the dates and slot that are available. And then you have to mandatorily present yourself in front of a panel. So I just want to say that in this process of the interview, what we're really looking for is to get to know the candidate. So to get to know you and know and understand your very unique personal context, right? You could come from various backgrounds. Sometimes you could even have a twin, right? And your twins are both applying to us. Even though, you're in the same home, you have the same family, you've had maybe the same school, maybe you're even in the same class, you will still be very unique and different as to who you are and how you engage. So the interview really allows us to get to know you in a more personal way. We evaluate both academic and non-academic parameters. So we do talk about the courses that you've mentioned as your preferred major. So think what you really want to do before you pick those. We discuss them. We want to see how you've engaged with them. We want to try and understand if you've used the opportunity of learning on your own as well, not just what you've studied in school, right? But just um, have tried to pursue learning on your own. We're also looking at non-academic parameters. We want to know what you've pursued outside of school, outside of classroom, outside of your education, academic education. What are the things that you've been passionate about? So we do have a very detailed sort of a conversation to try and understand all aspects of whatever you have put on your application form, and of course, and more. Also, we try to see what sort of support you may need, because we are a residential program. So we're also looking to see that you would be suitable for the academic program, but also for the residential program at Ashoka, and you would be able to thrive in the Ashoka on the Ashoka campus. Okay. The duration of the interview can vary depending on the candidate. Mostly, it's while we do have slots for 45 minutes, usually a typical interview would be 25-30 minutes. Sometimes it will go on to 35 minutes or so, but sufficient time for you to be able to really express yourself and talk about yourself and tell us, maybe tell us things that you have not put in your app form as well, if it's important to you. You can see this slide, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? There are a lot of things that we know about you from your application, from the way you've done your assessments. But the best way for us to know you is through your context. So I think when we understand your context and we get to know you, it sort of brings it all together for us. So that's the interview sort of helps us do that. The interview is not the only deciding factor in your admission. We do holistic admissions. So we look at everything when the admissions committee looks at all parts of our application form while deciding whether Ashoka is going to offer you an admission or not. But the interview really allows us to give the admissions committee context on you as a person. And then, of course, if you need any sort of affirmative support, we believe in affirmative action. So if you need any support, we offer that. And these conversations really help us understand the support you might need. Okay. Lastly, just quickly, there are, once all of this has happened, you'll get your decisions, and there are various decisions you can get. So that's stage 3. So if you get an offer of admission, you can look at the rest. If you get an offer of admission, then you can apply for need-based scholarship if you require the scholarship. There are other decisions you can get. Sometimes you'll be placed on a wait list, or sometimes your decision will be deferred. That is in case we want to wait for your class 12 final scores. And there will be some who will not get an offer of admission. But if you do get an offer of admission, immediately after you get the offer, you can apply for scholarships for our scholarships are all need-based. So there are a couple of different kinds of scholarships, but they're all focused on the kind of need that you have. And so there's a form for that, and there's a whole different process for that. So I think I'm kind of done with, just to end with this, to say that the education is meant to be a transformative experience, right? And I've talked all about the process, and I've talked about in detail, but this education, the Ashoka education, is meant to be a transformative experience. So I'll just pick up some of the things that I've already said. We'll teach you how to think and not just what to think. So that's a very important aspect. So if you learn how to think, you can think about anything. We'll teach you how to engage with diversity, different people from different backgrounds, beyond your classroom, learning from others. You'll hopefully, living in a residential campus, you'll learn how to deal with ambiguity, learn how to prioritize, learn how to make the most of various opportunities, learn how to say that, I can't be in 3 places at the same time, so I just have to now pick one if there are exciting things happening at the same time. Of course, in conversations, debates, discussions, to learn to agree, to disagree, to learn to continue to be friends with those people, and continue to want to contribute, right, to society. And finally, to remember that this is not just a degree. This is, if you want just a degree, I need to do my undergrad, I need to get a degree. Ashok, this sounds like a lot of work to just do that, right? So this is not just a degree. This is a transformative experience, right? And a time for you to prepare yourself and learn how to be in a world that's changing constantly. So when you go out after your undergrad, hopefully you'll be prepared for that. So with that, I'm going to stop. So thank you for listening to me. These are details to contact, and I think we'll put them
Yeah.
on the chat as well. But thank you so much. Vrinda, let me hand this over to you.
Okay, I honestly thought I could give you a breather. Just take a sip of water very
Thank
quickly
you.
because they've not given a single question that I can answer. They're all for you, my friend. Just say. So take a minute. We've put together most of the questions for everybody who's been asking the same question again and again. Yes, you'll be getting a recording of this session by the end of it. Basically, just go onto the YouTube channel of Ashoka. We're already live there. So you can pick out the link of this video from there itself. And for all those who are asking that the questions are not being answered, they get answered now because she was basically answering all your questions in detail during her presentation. But don't worry, we've sort of picked out the ones that have not directly been answered. So let's start from there. So, Masha, because this is the final round, let's take a few questions specifically for the final round first, and then we go on to the rest of it. All right. So, basically, what is an ideal candidate for you when you're looking for an application?
Okay, so I'll keep this answer short. I'll try and keep it short. But it's a very important question. A lot of times people think that, oh, if I don't meet this sort of requirement or that requirement, there's no point in me applying, right? Let me just say that please apply, because we're not looking at how you're doing currently only. We're really looking at how you've been, right? And the application form, the admissions process, the interview, all of these allow us to get to know you from a much more longer perspective. So I would say academics are important. We're not, I mean, academic scores, like I said, are important because it gives us an opportunity to say how disciplined you were, how rigorous have you been, how focused have you been in your academics. But that's not the only thing, right? Some people in certain boards may not thrive and they may thrive differently. So maybe our assessments are a better way for you because they don't have have to rote learn, for example. So maybe those work out better for you, right? And then possibly your essays or how you express yourself or what you tell us about yourself or your context. These things all come together. So when we're looking at a candidate, I think if I had to tell you what would work is I can't tell you that these are the top 5 things that would make sure that you get admission, right? But I think what I can tell you is that hopefully, if you have been someone who is sort of engaged in learning and who has, who enjoys the learning process, hopefully that will reflect in things like your grades, in things like your extracurriculars, right? And that is important. Those are important because they tell us very different things about you. Having said that, I think we are looking for someone who would fit into the Ashoka curriculum, into the Ashoka pedagogy of learning, right? So if you're somebody who thrives in just memorizing and giving exams, it's going to be tough. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that it's going to be tough for you because our process is not geared towards appreciating that fact. Our process is geared towards trying to see if you can think, if you can express yourself, right? You may be, I studied in a CBSE board. I mean, maybe 50 years ago, but I did study in a CBSE board. And in that board, I mean, we had to memorize. And I have the worst memory. I have a memory of a gnat. But I did, and I don't think that was the best environment for me. But you worked hard and you did the ratoing and you did what you had to do to get some scores to get into a good college, right? But if you ask me 5 days after the exam, if I remembered anything that I had memorized, nothing. But I've been a lifelong learner and I continue to learn and study only because I like learning. So that view has changed. So if you're somebody who likes learning, I think that you would fit well in an Ashoka ecosystem. If you're somebody who takes initiatives, who's like passionate about some things, right? And who really wants to sort of expand your own development, right? Or contribute to society in some, those things really work for us as well, because you will be in a residential campus. So I'd say don't think of it as what profile is going to look good, because those things don't work at Ashoka. I think what works is, can you tell us about yourself sufficiently to showcase that you enjoy learning, you enjoy taking initiatives, you enjoy that you are passionate about something, you have a belief system in something, that you clearly are sold out to something. I think broadly those will work in a place like Ashoka.
Thank you so much, Masha. In fact, if I had to just add something here, I can just say there is no mold for Ashoka. There is no mold. I mean, you look at five kids standing together at Ashoka, all five of them will be absolutely different. And that's a fact. Because if there was one mold, we would have actually made our lives a little easier, but that's not what we're doing at all. We are looking at your uniqueness, and you don't have to worry. And like Masha said, you don't have to worry about who's reading your application.
Yeah.
It has to be you. And because it is you, if you're a good fit for Ashoka, you will get in. If we feel that you are deserving of some place even better than this, we might not give you that offer, but that's not the end of the world. Let's just get it at that. So just submit your application and let's see where it goes. Okay. All right. So, okay, this is one question that I generally get a lot, Marsha. And this basically says, what are the usual mistakes that an applicant makes? Okay, give me top 3 or 5. Right.
Okay, one I said earlier, I'll say it again. With respect to your application form, not filling in the non-mandatory sections. Like, it's one thing to fill everything correctly that is mandatory. I mean, of course, students also incorrectly fill what is mandatory. And then, of course, over and above that, to fill everything that is non-mandatory also in a thorough manner, right? That's important for us. And I'll tell you why, because it really shows effort, it shows interest, it shows that you really you have taken the time out to do this. So one of the things I can tell you about the admissions process really is that we are constantly looking at intent. Intent is very important for us when we are, if I look at an application form and I read it and I spend 15 minutes to read your application form and evaluate it, if say typically it takes me 20 minutes to read an application form and look at it and read it well end to end, but if I can read it in like 5-7 minutes because you've put the bare minimum, I'm telling you that doesn't work. So that's one thing for sure. That shows that you've just done a shabby job. You fill it in the last minute. I think that's the overall form. I think another part could be the essays. If you've just, used ChatGPT, just written generic, like we get so many essays, right? It's easy for us to tell in the first 5 minutes that, oh my goodness, this is just lifted from here and lifted from there. It doesn't work for us. We're looking to see how you think. We don't want to know how ChatGPT thinks. We know how ChatGPT thinks. So we want to know how you think. And that's unique for us. So if you're able to tell us your story and yourself, whether it's the essay, whether it's the other spaces in the application form, in your words, that has more value than lifting anything from anywhere else. That's the other one. The third thing is, I would say, don't try to oversell yourself. Like, don't put things that it's something that you bear. Like, I see this a lot, like community service, for example. You've gone, because of school, you've gone to this one old age home for like 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever. And it honestly doesn't add value to your application form. Unless you're somebody who really believes in community service and who's consistently done that, and not just part of school. Of course, if you have no other opportunity and it's only part of school, that's fine. You may have done it for 4 years through school, and that's great. But it's not activities that we're interested in. We're really interested in how you've engaged and what you've engaged in with outside of academics, right? So, and maybe some of you have done a lot of things, and there you'll have to prioritize. And maybe some of you have done just a few things. And I can just tell you this very honestly. I know students who just bake, right? And I think COVID really brought out the bakers in many students. And they just bake. They love baking. They've discovered this art of baking. They bake throughout. But nobody's giving them a certificate for baking. And that's okay. Please put that down if that's what you love. Who knows? Maybe in the future you'll open a bakery. right? Or maybe you're already selling to your, it doesn't matter. My point is that put what you really love doing, what you're passionate about. Don't put something you think that we want to read. Because then if you come for the interview and you get questioned about it, it's got to be something that you can talk about, something that you care about. And we're only asking for three. So I don't think that's a stretch. I would say maybe the last one, two more. Okay. Second last one is if you need any support, please put it in the application form. If there's some experience or something you want to talk about, please put it. It helps us. We're not just thinking about the admissions. We're thinking about if you get admission, you're going to leave home, you're going to live at Ashoka. We want to support you. We want to ensure that you succeed, that you thrive, right? So please be open about it. Please tell us about anything, any sort of support you may need, right? And I think the last thing I would say is if you submit the application form and don't take your mandatory assessments, then we have to annul your form actually. So we can't take your form forward. So once your application form is submitted, you have to take the mandatory assessments, even if they seem scary. But like I said, no preparation required, right? So show up for it and just do your best. And yeah, I think those are my broad. Yeah.
Nice. Because honestly, guys, it takes time to fill a good application for Ashoka. And if you miss the aptitude assessment, you're actually not doing anything good for yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work in your favor.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, there's one more question, Masha. Is there a demerit for applying late because it's the final round?
Like applying in the final round? Is
Yep.
there some merit in applying in the final round?
Demerit. Somebody wants to know if I'm very late.
No. Please don't think like that. It doesn't matter. We have set different deadlines because we understand that, for example, students whose exams are in May, it's easier for them to apply in the first and second rounds. Students who got board exams in the middle of, from February and March and April, it's easier for, some of you to apply at this point after exams are over. So we're quite cognizant of this. We look at students, while we do say the rounds 1 and 2 have an added benefit, it's only because, we only still have a select number of seats, right? So we don't have endless seats because we're also a residential program. So we also need beds apart from seats. So in that, we really do say that, but there's no demerit. And if you're a good fit for Ashoka, you will still get that offer.
And thank you so much. I think final round question, we sort of put in a gist of that. But there's one question wherein a child is asking if there is any opportunity for them to come and visit the campus or if there's an open house. So for everyone's information, we are having open houses across, and along with that, coffee chats in smaller cities or in cities where we don't get a lot of students for a very big open house. But at least for the metropolitans, there are open houses and coffee chats that are happening. Kindly write to ugapply@ashoka.edu.in and we will send you the information for it if you haven't registered for it till now, because it's happening this weekend and the weekend after this. Along with that, we have campus tours that happen every Monday and Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if you just want to go to the Ashoka website, look for the campus tour form, register, come and visit us for 2 hours on whatever dates you're interested to come and visit us on. So yeah, I think that should answer your question. All right, so now let's move on to academics, right? Moreover, academics falls in grades and CUET graded questions because we have a lot of them right now. So again, this is an FAQ, Mosha. Is there a benchmark for the 12th grades that you're looking? Do we have a cutoff?
No cutoffs. So we don't have any cutoff for anything. We're looking at everything holistically. So, you may have done really well in class 10 and 11 and maybe class 12, you felt unwell, right? It's okay. So we look at things holistically, right? Maybe there could be any reason, right? Any number of reasons for different things. But obviously we're looking at overall if you've kind of done well, in different aspects, whether it's academically or non-academically. But particularly since we're talking about academics now, it's important that there is some amount of consistency. There's some way in which you can exhibit that you have been a rigorous student, that you've actually, participated as best as possible in the learning experience at school. But there are no cutoffs. We don't have any scores saying, I know people always ask me, is it like 95%, 90%? We don't do that. Yeah. There are many institutions for which, I mean, we studied in those as well, where you needed a certain percentage to get into a certain college and stuff. We don't do that. We're really trying to get to know you. So, like I said, we do holistic admissions.
Yes. There's one more very, very pertaining question here, Masha. So basically, somebody's asking, is there a benefit of scholarship for submitting the SAT, ACT, or the CUET scores? And if yes, then what is the good score that you're looking at in terms of SAT and CUET?
I think from what I know, I don't do the financial aid and scholarship bit of admissions. I mean, of after admissions, because all of this is after you get an offer of admission. But the SAT does offer some scholarships. It's a good question. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact answers to what is a good score, but you could maybe write to us and we can check with you. But the SAT has its own sort of grid, and they offer certain X number of scholarships to Ashoka students, and some of our students do avail of that.
Yes. And of course, SATs are not mandatory. She's already mentioned that in her
The SAT,
presentation.
ACT, CUET, none of
They're
them are
not
mandatory. Yeah,
If
because
you've
we
given
have
them,
our own assessment.
yeah, if you've given them, great. If you've not given them, not a problem. Also, even if you've given the SAT, because I don't want to put this question on you, Masha, because I know you've said this a lot of times already. Even if you have an SAT or an ACT or any other score, if you think you want to put that in the application, the aptitude assessment is still mandatory.
Yeah.
You cannot forego the aptitude assessment if you've given an SAT or an ACT. Just FYI, guys.
I also want to say that if you think you have a poor SAT score for whatever reason, but you have an SAT, I mean, we're not forcing you to put it. So either way, if you want to put it, if you have a good score, you want to put it, that's fine. If you don't want to put it, that's also fine. What's important for us is that you take our mandatory assessments.
Right. So you know what we've just done? We've just covered multiple questions in those few answers, Moshe.
Very good.
Right? Okay. So, all right. So now let's get to the application form, because the rest of the questions related to SAT, ACTs, and CUTs are still about cutoffs. Just reiterating, there is no cutoff at Ashoka.
Yeah.
For your board exams, for your other exams that you're submitting, absolutely nothing. Right? Okay. How many preferences of course do we need to indicate in the form?
For your major preferences, you'll be given the option to only indicate 3. So ensure that the first preference is something that you're really interested in. And then, of course, I mean, all 3 for sure, but maybe the first. But it's okay if you've not studied, like, for example, if you want to pursue, say, economics, okay, but you haven't studied economics. You can say economics as your first preference, but please be clear about this, that if you get shortlisted for the interview, you will be asked some questions around economics to understand your understanding of economics, right? Which means what you're expecting is, regardless of what you put as your first preference or your second preference or your third preference, that, maybe the third preference is something that you have no clue about, right? But the first preference, at least, that you have done something to explore it. So I think what the interview does is, the interview really wants to see, how have you explored this subject that you're saying that you're interested in? Like, if I were interested in pursuing computer science and I put computer science as my preferred major, first preference, but I don't know anything about computer science. It's like I woke up one day and I wrote computer science, right? That, if you get shortlisted for the interview, that is not going to fly, right? But you could be interested in computer science even without studying computer science. But we would like to know if you have, and how you have sort of explored and engaged with that discipline on your own. So maybe you didn't have it in school, maybe you weren't part of the computer science course, or maybe your school didn't provide it, but you've done some things on your own, right? That's sufficient for us.
All right. Um, okay. So, all right. Okay, this is a question that we generally do get. So my school details are not available in the column provided in in the school details list, and I'm not able to move forward. How do I go forward with it?
There will be one that says other. So please click on other and then you'll be asked to fill in the details of your school. We've tried to make the list comprehensive and I'm sure there are some that are not there on that list. But please click other and then a box will open up for you to fill in the name of your school. Please fill it in properly and carefully and ensure that it's correctly filled like it's actually named in your school.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so this one's quite interesting. If I have a lot of information to fit in the academic and non-academic achievements, can I use bullet points to write it as a list?
In the academics and non-academic section?
Yes.
The academic section after class 12, there is a space where you can put down additional things that you have done. Sure, you can use bullet points for that. There are students who have done some AP courses, there are students who have done some particular focused academic, they've engagement of some sort. So, whatever you've done outside of school, you can put that. It's at the end of your class 12 section. For your extracurriculars, we only ask for three. So please stick to three. And in those, so don't club them together, right? Stick to three. But there is a box for details. I think there are word limits though in all of these. So please have a look. And then you can fill in those details and bullet points are fine.
All right. Okay. So I'm just trying to figure out if we have any extra questions left here. Okay. Can I add more than 5 books in the book section?
I mean, I'd be very happy if you had 5 books because mostly I see that adding more than 3 books is a bit of a challenge. But no, you can't. But sometimes what you can do, like if you like a particular author, right, and you've read their entire series, I think you can write that. If maybe they've got like some 8 books in a series and you read all of them, right? You could write that. You could write the series of this and then name the author. I think that's one way to look at it. But I think another thing I want to say about reading, if you're a reader or if you like reading and you read across genres, then maybe tell us what you're reading across genres. Or maybe even some things, like a non-textbook, like you want to study, say, philosophy. Well, you don't study philosophy in school, but say you want to study political science, right? And there might be some textbooks that are political science related that you study in school. But there's so much out there that is in the space of political science, but which is not textbook. And you may have read that. You can put that down as well because that then also shows that you are interested in political science. That's what you want to major in. And you are reading some books related to that. But if you're a reader and you've read across genres, I would say diversify as well.
All right. There's one question which I think we should answer because generally we do get these 10th grade related questions, right, in the form. So there's one student who's asking that I've not done mathematics in 10th grade. How do I specify that to you in my application?
You don't have to specify. We can see that for ourselves. So don't
Exactly.
worry about it. We'll know that you haven't done mathematics. We check all the documents. So
Trust me, these guys take a lot of time. So the reason why there is a gap between you guys giving your assessment to getting your interview invites is because that is where the human aspect enters. A reader actually goes through your form cover to cover. Every single attachment that you've put into your form, somebody opens it up, reads it thoroughly, creates
yeah.
a profile for us as well. So it's not like you're just filling up an application and you're putting it in a system. That's not how it works at Ashoka. It's a very, very human process, and which is why we give you that benefit of the doubt at every stage as well.
So we know when you've not filled in scores in the form that are not matching with your document. So, which is why we're saying, please ensure that whatever you got in your certificate from school or your transcript matches what you put on the form. Don't write something dil say on the form and then attach a document that doesn't, corroborate that because we open the document and we make a note and we say carelessly filled scores or, scores don't match what's on the form. So that's what we
We look
do.
at
So
everything, guys. Basically, we look at everything. So
Yes.
please be very mindful of what you're putting in your application, right? And also, oh, so there is one FAQ. I don't think anybody's asked it here, but I'm just going to point it out. A lot of times, a lot of students get stuck with 10th grades being a little, a little bit more than the space that is provided in the grade. You are attaching your 10th grade mark sheet. So we will be opening that up. So just put whatever you want to put there in terms of your scores. And then after that, we will be opening the document any which ways. So even if the space is a little less for you, don't worry about it. Just fill in the form as you see
Yeah.
fit at that point.
If you're not IB Cambridge, if you're or an international board, if you're from the CBSE, ISC,
Right.
state boards, I know sometimes you have some boards have a lot of scores.
Yes.
We need, we definitely need your English scores, and we need another. I think it allows you to do 6 for sure, but there is a plus button at the bottom, so you can click on the plus button and you can keep adding subjects. So that's how it works. So don't get worried.
Yeah.
But we do look at how you've done, like what your overall aggregate is. But you need to put down those scores. But you have to click the plus button and then continue to add.
Right. Okay, so there are spaces where we can write about ourselves a little bit, but is there spaces where we can attach more documents other than the ECS? Because there's a student who says that I write very well, but I don't want to put that in my extracurriculars only. So is there any other space where I can add my poetry?
I don't know why you would not want to put that in your extracurriculars if you write very well. You can't attach it there, but you can give us a link. I mean, you can attach it there in the extracurriculars, but is there any other space? Yes. If it's something connected to academics under class 12, there is that space. You can put some attachment there. There's also another space on the application form later. But I would say if it's in, you'll have to decide now whether is it academic, is it non-academic, and sort of restrict yourself to these spaces.
Yeah.
Because there are attachment spaces for support, there are attachment spaces for other aspects, but those are not. So you can't. I mean, please don't randomly put attachments in different places. Stick to the theme. So is it academic? Is it a non-academic activity that you're doing? And preferably just use those.
Moshe, can they put it in the so in the supported Ashoka section? There's the last question which says that nothing has been captured, something that has not been captured in the rest of the form. You can add it here.
So
Can they
no, not
create
on
a
that
link?
section, because that is very specific to if there's been a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So that's why I said please don't put it there. So stick to the academic or the non-academic section depending on what the activity is.
Thank you. That answers a lot of my questions also. Okay. All right. Non-novel books. All right. Do non-novel books count in the book section?
Non-novel, yes, of
Novel.
course,
There are
absolutely.
not novels.
No, so you can do fiction, you can do non-fiction. Basically, what do you read? I mean, I read fiction and non-fiction and a lot of other things as well. So I would just want to prioritize what I read. Um, you know, Preferably don't put things that you read when you were like 10 years old. We'd like to know what you're reading now, currently in the last couple of years or so. But sometimes I've had students I've talked to students who put something that they read very early on, and they've put one series of books or something because it was what got them into reading. But they're serious readers, right? So all the other 4 books are really like into showcase their current, reading habit, right? So always try and understand why we're asking you to put in certain things. The reason we're asking you to put in things about reading is because Ashoka is very reading heavy. Doesn't matter whether you're a math and science student or whether you're a literature and history, political science student or philosophy student. You have to read and you've got to write. So we want to just gauge and see, do you have some experience in reading? Do you have some interest? And if you don't, it is going to be a little tough. So we want to encourage, but again, there's no set thing that this is exactly what you need to read, right? We just want to know, how are you processing knowledge, information? How are you learning new things? And is it text based, right? And let me just say this actually, like if you are somebody who's got, say, dyslexia, now let's use that as an example, and you find actual reading tough, right? Please don't take it so literally. Maybe you're into audiobooks and that works for you and that's the best for you. I mean, please put that down. we're trying to understand your consumption of knowledge, of text. The means doesn't matter, right? The method doesn't matter.
All right. Now, with that, let's move to the extracurriculars and co-curriculars. Now, because we are running a little out of time, what we've done is we've sort of clubbed a lot of questions and we're going to be taking them as much as possible. In case any one of you, your questions not answered today, kindly write to ugapply@ashoka.edu.in and we will answer your questions. Right? Okay. So, what counts as collateral for extracurricular activities?
If it's anything to do with, I think higher than school level, certificates, or if, for example, if you're a student council president or head girl, head boy, one of those, your badge or a certificate that you've received, if that's, if leadership is what you really enjoy doing and you're passionate about, some photographs may also be nice to showcase that. But it'll have to be proof, right? You can't borrow your friend's head girl badge and take a photo of it and put it. It should probably have to say your name then. So you know what I'm saying, right? But sometimes it could be a letter that you received from school. It could be awards. It could be, you've played at the national level or, district level, whatever, state level. You've gotten some certificates for winning or for participation. So any of those things will work. Maybe you did internships that you're passionate about. You got a letter from your internship place. That would work as well. To support whatever you're putting on the application form. That's the reason for the collateral.
Okay, so there's a student who says that, what do you suggest I add if I don't have any pictures of me doing a particular activity? For example, biking.
I mean, if it's so there are different levels, right? So then you pick personal practice. That's one level. Then you're just doing that on your personal, like I said, talked about the baking. It's the same thing, right? Maybe no one's going to give you a certificate for cycling unless you participated in some competitions. But by all means, if that's that's what you're passionate about and that's what you do, then it'll be really fun to have a chat and figure out what kind of cycling you do, what kind of bike do you use, and where do you cycle, right?
Right. Okay. One very important question. So what if I have more certificates than required and I have 3 proofs of my activities? Can I club them in one PDF and put them together?
Yeah, but a maximum of 3 certificates. So pick the top 3 and then club them into one PDF and put them.
Perfect. Okay. So
and don't add your resume, please.
Guys, your application is your resume, just FYI, because if you actually look at the application in all, you've just put in parts of your resume there only. So there's no point of putting your resume in it. Okay. Okay, now we move on to the LOR section, letter of recommendation. Can we add multiple recommenders?
No, you just have place for one, and also you're only adding the details. You're not getting the recommendation. You're not asking them to submit. You're asking them to submit if required, but you're not. So their submission will only depend on if we want a letter of recommendation from them. What we want from you is just details on who to contact. Who's your recommender? What is their designation? How are they connected to you? And their contact details. And if we need, we will contact them directly by ourselves. And by we, I mean the Office of Admissions.
Yes. There's somebody very sweetly saying, "Hi, Miss Mercia. Is it possible for me to submit my LOR myself since my recommender has given it to me already?"
So no need. Oh, so you mean later if we need?
Yes.
No, you still need to put your recommender's details. Even if they've given it to you, that's fine. We will contact them and we will just ask them to send it to us. So we don't want any recommendation directly from the student.
Perfect. All right, moving on to the essay section. Could you elaborate on how should we go about writing the personal essays? You've already done that. Let's just do a small
recap. Okay, let me do a recap. Please read the prompts clearly because you need to know what we're asking you and why we're asking you that. And like I said, intent is very important, right? So essay 1, 400 words. There are 2 topics. You can pick one. Both of them are asked because we want to know how you think, how you reflect, how you do research, What have you concluded? How have you changed possibly by that activity of doing that, right? That's essay one, it's 400 words. 400 words is sufficient space to showcase a thought. So pick an issue or whatever the question asks and then elaborate on it. Think about it. It's got to show that you're able to engage with all aspects of that prompt. By prompt, you know what I mean, right? It's the actual question. And so it's a long prompt. So you've got to ensure that you address all parts of it. And that's one. Secondly, that you're actually allowing a random person like me, if I'm reading your application, I should be able to read it and say, oh, this student has understood the prompt, has addressed all parts of it, and what they've written really makes sense. It shows me how they think, it shows me their ability to research, it shows me their ability to articulate and write about what they've thought and some conclusions that they've arrived at. So if you just follow the instructions, you'll do very well. If you don't follow the instructions, you may complicate it for yourself, and it may not be helpful for us as well.
Yeah.
The second prompt, again, very simple. We just want to know something more about you, something personal about you. Just a little window into knowing you as a person. We want to know that you're not a bot. No, I'm kidding. We know you're not a bot, but we want to know something personal about you, something that's really made you feel in a certain way, or good way or a bad way, whatever it might be, right? But something that's significant for you. So that's something that we really care about, and we want to know. So I would say write your essays yourself. Don't worry about language. Don't worry about trying to make it look, spectacular. I know that it matters in some institutions that you write in a certain manner, that you showcase your language skills. I'm telling you, we don't care. And if you've heard it from me, you've heard it from my entire team. Yes. We don't care about your language skills. Because if you have language issues, we will help you with that if you get admission. So don't worry about that. What we really care about is knowing that you have thought about these prompts. You have written like 5 drafts or 2 drafts, depending on how good your writing is and how well you feel you're able to communicate, and that you've expressed what you want to. Because, when you come for the interview, then you don't have anybody there and there's no drafts at that point, right? So we want to know that your essay and you are also the same people. It helps.
Which takes us to our next question, which is very important. And I'm going to be taking a snippet of your answer from here and using it everywhere. So just for my understanding, I have used my ideas to form an essay using ChatGPT. Is that okay?
I've used my ideas
to form an essay on ChatGPT. Is that okay?
If you're looking for language skills, like if you're looking to refine your essay, it's okay. Use it. But write your first draft yourself. Or write your first 2 drafts yourself. And then if you think ChatGPT can say it in a better way, right? But can I just be very honest here about ChatGPT? The problem is you may have actually written your ideas and you would have written it thoughtfully. And then ChatGPT, what it does is, because it's refining it, it takes it and it makes it look like everybody else's essay or everybody else who has used ChatGPT.
Yep.
So I don't think it does service to you. I think it does disservice to you because it takes very personal things and also makes it sound impersonal. In my view, I've read a lot of essays, and I think that that's not helpful at all. If I've put in effort and I'm really trying to say something that's on my mind and something that I've thought about or something that I really care about, and then I put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has a certain way of writing. So if you're not familiar with reading ChatGPT essays, let me tell you, it takes my team precisely like 20 seconds to look at an essay and say, oops, AI generated 100%, because they're reading so much, right? And it doesn't do you any service. So I'm trying to say again and again, in this age of ChatGPT, we don't want nice looking essays, flowery essays. We just want to know what you think. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about skills. Of course, you can use, check your grammar and all of that, whatever you have Grammarly and stuff like that to check. But don't worry, because ChatGPT will take your words and use other words, and then they all sound alike. That's my view. Of course, I'm sure
No,
other
but
people
then
are also giving you advice, so feel free to take whatever
But then
advice you
there's
wish.
another point of view to this, no, Masha, because when these kids, while you're using ChatGPT for your essays, you come for the on-the-spot essay and there's a
Yeah.
stark difference.
So
And then
that's
suddenly you sit for the interview and then there's a stark difference because your words will not match that
Yeah,
the
and
tool
that's
that you're
very,
using,
very true. That happens. So
right?
there's
So,
we want some consistency. We're okay with whatever your level of language is. I
I mean, at
mean,
the end of the day, you're tarnishing your own chances of getting in. So
yeah,
don't do that.
we just really want to get to know you. You know, I mean, I
Yeah.
think at the core of everything we're doing in this process is really wanting to get to know you
Yes.
because you matter to us, and we just want to see if you will do well at Ashoka, if Ashoka will be good for you. You know, you might be brilliant, but maybe Ashoka is not the right place for you, right? We also will tell you that then, right? So in that sense, maybe there are other places that are better, or maybe, so, it's all of that. And for that, then a more genuine and authentic version of you would be ideal.
Got it. All right. So very quickly, I'm going to be clubbing a few questions now because this is assessments. Will I be allotted a particular time slot for my aptitude assessment, or do we have an option of doing it whenever during the day?
No, so we ask you to pick a slot,
Huh?
right? And we request you to be on time on that slot. So if you pick, say, the 10 a.m. slot, 10, I think there's you need to come in that window of the first 15-20 minutes or whatever. But whatever slot you pick, please show up at that slot. If there's an emergency, if there is any issue, please write to us, or please then show up when you can. But that's just for exceptions, and then we will check with you and see what happened, and then we will help you at that point. But if you've pick a convenient slot, pick a slot that works for you, right? It's the same as for interviews as well. We give you a bunch of dates and open up all the slots we have, and we ask you to pick if you get
Yeah.
shortlisted for the interview. So I find it quite funny when people pick a slot and then they say that they can't come because they have an exam. So either
Yeah.
they did not know about the exam, right? If it's an emergency and you didn't know about the exam, that's fine, right? But if you know about an exam, or you know about a wedding you have to attend, or an activity or a trip or whatever, then pick a slot that works for you so that you can just
Yeah.
honor that, that choice that you have made. It's ideal, but we understand we don't live in an ideal world. So you can, if there are any issues or any emergencies, you can always write to us.
Right. The next question I'm answering because it's just yes or no. So, are essay, the aptitude assessment and the on-the-spot essay, are they offline or online? They are completely online. In fact, the interview is also online. The entire process for Ashoka is online. You don't have to go anywhere. You just sit at your home and you're done. Okay, so Masha, this is one question that we might get later on also. 4th of May also happens to be the date for NEET. Do we plan to change our date of the assessment?
No. The percentage of students taking the NEET is very limited. So we would say if you are going to sit for the NEET exam, please email the admissions team, right?
Yes.
Once you get details about once you've submitted your form, just let us know, and then someone will contact you and help you with that and figure out. But the larger assessment for everyone is on the 4th of May.
Got it. Okay, very quickly, moving on to the interview questions. What is the tentative date that we can expect the decision if we clear the interview round or not? I mean, if we get into the interview round or
The
not. Is
date's
that
on the website. I think I said it was June 25th.
no,
That's
no,
the
they're
date.
asking when can they hear back from us if they've made it to the interview round or not?
Oh,
Is
so
there a timeline?
if you get shortlisted for the interview, usually it takes us around, after the assessment is done, it takes us around 10 days to 2 weeks to read apps. But we do rolling, like as we read, we shortlist, and then we send out invites. So, but then a day will come when we send out all the not shortlisted. But it's all going to be within that cycle, like between your assessments and the decision deadline. Somewhere in between there is when you will know exactly whether you've been shortlisted or not. I can't tell you a date at this point.
No worries. All right. How many people will be interviewing me? Is it a panel or is it one person?
It just depends. It's usually a panel of two. Sometimes it's one person, like I interview alone. I have some senior people who interview alone. And sometimes, and other team members interview in pairs. So it depends. So it'll be one or two. It won't be more than two. We don't want to scare you.
Okay, now coming on to a few generic questions, Rasha. Basically, will applying for financial aid in any way affect my chances of admission when compared to, say, an equally qualified applicant who has not applied for financial?
So your scholarships, financial aid have nothing to do with admissions. We finish the admissions process, you get an offer of admission, and only then you will apply for scholarships, financial aid, whatever you're applying for. You apply only after you get the offer of admission. So your admissions process, your selection process doesn't have anything to do with whether you require aid or don't require any sort of funding. Like there's no correlation. We have de-linked the two. If you don't get an offer of admission, it also has nothing to do with your finances. If you get an offer of admission, it has nothing to do with your finances.
All right. Now with that, we have more questions. One second. Okay. So if I decide to move out of Ashoka after the third year, is there a graduation with honors or do I not get the honors?
So it's currently still BA BSc honors, right? But please note we're a 4-year program. The program is designed to be 4 years. The 3-year option is a UGC mandated exit. So you'll have to treat it as an exit. You're not going to be having a convocation, or placement services may also not be fully available. So it's just an exit. It's like saying that, okay, I've done this part of the program and I'll get that degree and I'll leave. But it's not it's not ideal for us. We want you to do the 4-year program. We have moved to the 4-year model.
Yes. Um, then can you throw some light on the campus facilities and environment? Is the campus very high pressure?
It's a very vibrant campus, let's say that. Academics, of course, are rigorous. I don't think it's high pressure. Nobody knows what your grades are, your scores are. No one's publishing anything anywhere. It's a learning environment. It's definitely a lot of bright students together. So if there is a little bit of pressure there, yes. I'm not saying that there's no academic pressure. It is rigorous, but it is an enjoyable learning experience. And there are a lot of other activities as well that are fun, that's like related to sports and related to extracurriculars and clubs and societies and all kinds of things. So students are recommended and advised to sort of do more than just academics. And I think all our students are doing something or the other. And then it's a full residential program. So, in your dorms, there are things that are happening. Our Office of Student Affairs is also hosting a lot of things, right? A lot of events, along with students. So
That's exciting.
it's very exciting and it's very full. I'll just say it's a very full kind of vibrant.
Yeah. In fact, so as the outreach person, I actually work with students directly. So let me just tell you this. The campus doesn't sleep. It's as simple as that. So there's always something to do, and it is far from high pressure because you get a lot of guidance on campus. There are your seniors who've gone through whatever you're going through right now. So everybody's there to help out.
So let me just
All right.
add one thing. I just want to say that it is a 24/7 campus. The library is open 24/7. So we find students studying at all odd hours of the day and night because it's convenient for them. The gym, I think, is open to a large extent. We have a sports complex. The campus itself, once you're inside campus doors, the campus is 24/7 open, right? Some students have classes a little late in the afternoon. They like to study at night. They like to, sleep in a little in the morning. Some are the other way around. They want to wake up really early in the morning, and maybe all their classes that they have picked are in the morning. So your campus life and experience is also a little different from each other. But a lot will depend on when your classes are. A lot will depend on how you want to use your 24 hours. So the only thing that's consistent is that everyone's got 24 hours. I think it just depends on how each one wants to design that for themselves.
All right. Now, with that, I think we've just come to the last question for the entire thing. And I think we've saved the best for the last. As an applicant, what should I focus on during the entire application process? What is the most important?
So I personally think that the most important part is really your application form. And it's got to be genuine. It's got to reflect you. You've got to give us as much information as possible. Because if you don't do that, you may never get to the interview stage, right? The interview stage is the next thing. And maybe we can discuss that on another day. But how you present yourself in the interview and what really matters and all of that. But for now, I would say the application form is of primary importance. If you don't, do it well, and if you don't put in everything that is required, and if you don't write your essays properly, chances are that you could fall off the grid there. So just focus on the application form. Once you've done that, the next step is really your assessments, right? And then it's your interview. So you've got to do all of these one by one, but for now, I would say focus on the application form.
All right. We're done. Masha, we're
Okay.
leaving you alone.
Thank you.
We won't bother you anymore. You don't have to talk anymore. I am so sorry for doing this because they genuinely had no questions for me. I mean, I was just able to just add in bits. All right. So thank you for joining us for Ashoka's admission webinar. I hope this session was helpful in understanding more about Ashoka's holistic admission process. Before we wrap up the session, we would really appreciate if you could please take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link for the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the final round deadline for the undergraduate applications is 25th of April 2025. Apply soon. We would also like to invite you to the next webinar on scholarships at Ashoka, which is scheduled for Tuesday, 15th of April from 6 to 7 p.m. The registration link is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you would like to share it with your friends. If you have any further queries, please write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in. Once again, thank you so much, Mercia, for taking out the time to participate in this discussion. And this brings us to the end of the session. I wish you all luck and all the very best with your Ashoka applications, everyone.